Hey everyone, it's me, Chris from Body Nova Fitness Coaching. Now I'm here because I wanted to talk to you about um, sodium and potassium, okay? Because where most people, they're worried about their blood pressure, they're worried about their health, possible risk of strokes and things like that. And part of it is we tend to watch our sodium intake and avoid foods high in sodium. But with a lot of minerals, if you look at one mineral in isolation, it's not a bad thing. It actually, rephrase that, it is a bad thing. It's a bad thing because it doesn't tell the whole picture. You know, calcium and magnesium work as antagonists to each other. So they used to say not to take both at the same time because they use the same receptors within the body and they interfere with each other's absorption. So it'll be more difficult to improve your calcium intake with that, or your magnesium intake, what your body uses because they're fighting for the same receptors. Okay. With things like blood pressure and fluid retention, or your body's getting rid of excess fluids and stuff like that, is also a balance thing. Okay. You need both sodium and potassium, and that regulates the balance of water, within your cells and within your body. So if sodium makes you retain water, but if you're getting enough potassium, potassium will help you release water and stuff like that. And a lot of us, we're deficient in foods that are high in potassium. But let me tell you about some of the benefits of a higher potassium intake. Okay, so with one of them, the recommended intake for potassium is 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day. So getting enough potassium may offset that high sodium intake that we get from eating a lot of processed foods. All right. Sodium lowers the risk of high blood pressure and stroke. Okay. Again, if there's no swelling, and there's less volume, your heart doesn't have to work as hard to circulate or get that blood to circulate. Okay. Potassium helps with that. All right. So next, it protects against muscle loss, and that'll be important because when we're trying to stay in good health, one of those largest predictors is the amount of lean body mass that you have. It's not just your weight. If you're higher in muscle, that skews the equation. If you have a high weight and you're low and your body fat is high, meaning you're low in muscle, of course that's not good for your health. Okay, so with that, it preserves bone mineral density. Again, most people will look at only calcium. All right, when we're trying to avoid getting osteoporosis or anything like that. Potassium, it plays a role in blood pH, and a lot of the times, bone mineral density is reduced because your high processed foods and all of eating too much of the wrong foods and stuff like that, not getting enough vegetables and things like that in, the blood pH will be off. So what will happen is the bones will release minerals to help balance out blood pH. Okay, but potassium is positive for your blood pH, so it also helps you maintain proper bone health and bone density. So that's something to think about. All right. Fluid balance. Again, we've talked about fluid balance, but also what we never talked about is the formation of kidney stones. A lot of people fighting with kidney stones. One of the things that play a role in that: high sodium, high blood pH, things like that. Potassium helps bring down your risk of that. Of course, I'm not a doctor or anything, so you should take what I'm saying as a grain of salt. Here's my disclaimer. But if you look towards increasing, your diet with foods that are high in potassium, that's good. So it's not we're just not looking at bananas as the foods that are high in potassium. Okay, white beans are higher in potassium than bananas. Oranges, spinach, Swiss chard, All of those are different foods, and I'll give you a list of foods that are higher in potassium, that have high potassium, so you can incorporate them in your diet. I mean, of course, you can always use potassium pills, but the pills will never replace food, because there's other things in the food. Oranges are also higher in vitamin C, which is recommended. Spinach is also high in magnesium, which is a common deficiency in most people. There's extra things in the food that are good for your health. So I wanted you guys to think about this. I didn't want everybody to start going crazy, with the New Year's resolutions and only trying to control their sodium. You can also try to up your potassium, and that's another thing to look at when you're trying to, when you're trying to get healthy, things like that. There's two sides of this coin, especially when you're dealing with minerals. The minerals don't work in isolation. They don't do their good effects or their bad effects in isolation. And sodium raising blood pressure by itself is not bad, but if you have high potassium, not a problem. By itself, problem. So I wanted you to think about that. And if you have a question or a comment, either email me or list them below. Thanks.